Have you ever been surprised by God? There's a wonderful story in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 17, verses 24 through 27, in which Jesus really surprised one of his friends, one of his disciples, Peter. Peter had been out and around and was approached by one of Jesus' critics. There were many of them, and one of them approached Peter and said to Peter, "What about your master? Doesn't he pay the temple tax?" There was an expected tax paid every year by each of the Jewish people in the first century to help with the upkeep of the temple. And this critic accused Jesus of not paying the temple tax. And Peter, of course, defended his master and said, "Well, of course Jesus pays the temple tax." And then he went off to find Jesus to find out if he'd answered correctly. Now, before he could even broach the question with Jesus, Jesus raised the question for Peter. He said to Peter, here in verse 25, "What do you think, Peter? From whom do the kings of the earth collect duty and taxes? From their own sons or from others?" And he said, "Well, not from their sons, from others." In other words, it would be like us saying, who would pay for the rent on the house? Would it be a tenant, or would it be your little children who have to pay the rent? And we would say, of course, not the little children paying the rent in our family, but it would be the tenants who pay the rent. Well, Jesus said it's that way with the temple. And Jesus said, "I'm the Son of God. I don't need to pay the temple tax. The temple is for me." But Jesus said, so that we don't offend anyone, let's go ahead and generously pay the temple tax. He said, "Here's how we'll do it, Peter. You go down to the lake, take your fishing rod with you, cast the line into the water, and the first fish you catch, open its mouth, you'll find there a coin, and that coin will be just the right amount to pay both your temple tax and mine." And Peter did this, of course, and looked in and was surprised by Jesus and the way he provided. And there's so much to that story. Just think, someone had to inadvertently drop just the right coin into the lake one day. That was a loss to that individual, probably a regrettable loss, but there it was, lost nonetheless. A certain fish had to come and pick that coin up and keep it in its mouth long enough for Peter to catch the fish and to find just the right fish and to open its mouth and find the coin. It's just a wonderful story of the way Jesus sometimes surprised his disciples and how God sometimes can surprise us. Maybe God will surprise you. Maybe a surprise to an answered prayer that you've been praying for a long time. Maybe a surprise in the way he blesses you through a friend or through an experience in life, or just helps you through a tough situation. Let's keep our eyes open and see if God doesn't surprise us. Thank you for joining me for this pastoral visit.